ability to be able to understand identification. And identification will be that we don't know ourselves. So my name is Gochku Kelvin Kubuna. Yeah. I think it will be important that we all get to know ourselves. So what I want to do, so on the chat box, can you just type, where are you? Where are you joining us from? Wherever you are in the world. It's important we get to know. I mean, it would, like I said, it would give an identification, a face to you. That's one. And then also, your expectations, okay? And then possible questions. You can put it out there. I don't know if you guys can hear me. And they confirm you can hear me, please.
Oh, yes. I can hear you.
All right. Yeah, so also, and then your possible questions now, and your possible questions as it goes, so that we will know how to factor all of them in. So yeah, so let's just go right along. So Engr, you have the floor. So brain power. I mean, you said so much about it. You've shown so much so far in this semester. So let's hear you. Thank you very much. You have the floor. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. That's if you are on the same continent as I am, and if you are somewhere else, good morning or good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. First of all, am I clear? Can you hear me clearly? Can someone please confirm? Yeah.
No, yeah, your reception. Andy, hold on. Your reception, you're breaking. Okay.
Okay.
Let's try now. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
You're good now. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead to share my screen, and then we will move forward. Okay, please confirm that you can see my screen.
We can see your screen, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go right ahead. My name is Sanya. I'm a medical doctor, and this session today, it's jointly going to be taken by myself and Paul Okungbowa. So I'm going to start and then Paul will continue later. So here we go. I want to start, by reminding us of this Bible verse. This is Psalm 139, verse 14. Is NLT. It says, "Thank you for making us complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it." The reason we're starting with this.
Okay, so there's a bit from where you are. I don't know. Okay, Andy, hold on. All right. Okay, everyone, please, can we all go on mute, please? Can we all mute our devices, please? It would help the facilitator to talk very well and we hear well, please. Can we all mute, please? We can engage on the chat box, please. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Go on. Yes, you can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so yeah, the reason we're starting with this is really what we're doing today. We're not inventing anything, and we're not talking about anything that has been recently invented, or something fancy. The human body is amazingly structured. Personally, this is one of my favorite Bible verses. I am so wonderfully complex. Yeah, today we're just talking about the brain, but you should know that your body is a perfectly functioning, like a perfectly oiled machine. You know, every single cell in your body is purposely built to accomplish, you know, one thing or the other, you know, and even the way all the body parts, you know, the cells, the tissues, the organs, the way they all sync together to get things done every day is amazing. So we're starting with this to say that have the background understanding that this is not about some fancy stuff, you know, that maybe people did some experiments. If somebody found out about it one day, it's just that we didn't know before, and someone did some research and found out, oh wow, the body works this way. So we are saying that this is what your wonderfully complex brain that has been specially lovingly created by God is capable of doing, you know. So it's good for you to know, and it's good for you to put that into practice, you know, to be able to be more productive, to hit a lot more of the things that we're trying to hit and we're trying to achieve, you know, especially, you know, as work study group, you know, where the conversation originated from. So you're welcome. I would like to say, you know, this is a bit of a caveat. If you did not enjoy biology in school, I have good news for you. You have another chance, you know, to enjoy it today. So please, you know, just be calm. Okay, when you see pictures, just say yes, yes, my brain is wonderfully complex. I understand everything. Okay, so let's get right to it. Okay, I'm sorry, apologies. Give me a second. Okay, so we're talking about the human brain, you know. I want to start by saying that the brain is part of something that we call the nervous system. The nervous system is the part of the body that controls, it kind of controls all the functions of the body, and it also controls what happens, how the body relates to what is happening on the outside. So how we see, hear, talk, you know, and all that. Now, the nervous system, you know, is not the main organ, you know, but the brain is like the chief in everything that goes on in the body. The brain controls all body functions, okay? And like I said, it interprets information from the outside. What does the brain do? Everything. Memory, creativity, emotion, intelligence, you know, seeing, hearing, all the organs have to report to the brain, you know, to interpret what is going on. Now, if you would permit me to slide back a little second, so this image that we have here, you can see that this is just like a picture of the nervous system. You have the brain, the spinal cord, you have nerves from every single spot in your body. I mean, if you have ever hit your big toe against the bed or against the stool in the house, you will know that definitely there are nerves on that toe. You know, pain that is so amazing. Let me just use that word. You know, it's almost as if your whole body is like, what is this? But that's your brain telling you that, sister, brother, don't break this leg for us. The leg is important to us. Please shift yourself. You know? So that's what the brain does. The brain controls all bodily functions, okay? Generally, the brain is divided into two. This image here is just like one half of the brain. So we can just see, I mean, all this is just technical, but different things that the brain does, hearing, learning, feelings, thinking, speaking, language, touch, vision, every function that happens, you know, it gets to the brain. So the brain takes all this information, it makes sense of it, let me put it that way, and it allows you to take a decision. So you step out and it's raining. Your brain says it's raining, you need to come out, and things like that. The main three parts of the brain, you have the cerebrum, which is this big part here. All of this, you have the cerebellum, which is this, and then you have the brain stem. You don't need to remember any of this, but why we wanted to push this out is because we want to say that the cerebrum and the cerebellum, you know, these parts of the brain, they do more, will I say, more complex functions. When you have this part of the brain, the midbrain, there are a lot of things that you don't think about before you do it. Okay? We call these things generally involuntary bodily functions. So when you see, you're not thinking about it as you're seeing. We're all looking at our screens, we're reading, you know, you can hear my voice, I hope. You know, you're not thinking about it. Unlike, okay, I want to write. I'm thinking to some extent, really. I'm writing, Njideka is a wonderful human being. I'm sort of thinking about it, you know, or I am at work and getting some work done, you know, I'm thinking about it. Okay, should I go this way? Should I go this way? I have a speech to give tomorrow. I'm thinking of what to write. Those are a bit more complex. But many of the things that come to the midbrain, it just happens by reflex. Imagine how stressful it would be if you had to think about breathing, or if you have to think about it every time your heart needs to beat. You know, you have to think the brain has to say, should my heart beat? Should we beat? Say yes, so that we won't die. And then, you know, the heart beats. All these things are reflex function, and they usually happen at the level of the midbrain. Now, later on in the conversation, you will understand why by explaining this, you know, little bit, you know, that there are some functions that happen in the brain that are more complex, you know, like you're trying to remember something, but there are lots of things that happen by reflex. You don't need to do so much thinking. It gets to the midbrain. The midbrain says, oh yes, continue breathing. Oh, this place is too much, you know, your body cools down a bit, you know, things like that. So that's all. Now, done with the anatomy for now. So let's talk about something interesting, you know. This takes us back to the amazingly complex points, you know, that we based from the scripture at the beginning. So let's just talk about some interesting things about the brain. There's so many things, but let me start with this. The brain contains some special cells. So the cells in the brain, like, you know, all the cells in the body, different parts of the body are different. So a brain cell is different from a blood cell, like a red blood cell, a white blood cell, which is different from the cells in the bladder. That's how differentiated all the cells in the body are, okay? The brain contains 100 billion of these neurons. 100 billion, as in, yes, 9 zeros after 100. And these neurons, they move information as fast as 400 kilometers per hour, okay? 400 kilometers per hour. It might seem, oh, that's so amazing, but think about it. Think about what you said. Your heart is beating constantly, you know? Whether if you put your hand on your chest, you feel your heart beating. It has been beating since you were born. It has not stopped. It's not planning to stop till you're like 120, okay? The neurons need to move information that fast, and they are well able to do so. Another thing about the brain, all the blood, the energy, all the oxygen in your body, the brain alone uses 20% of that. You know, that tells you how much work it needs to get done. And that tells you how much the body understands. It's like, we know who the guy is in this matter. 20% of everything that is going on. The brain functions, the body rather functions such that if there's some issue, you know, in your body, the body will favor the brain rather than, you know, sending extra energy or extra oxygen to anybody else. Because the body knows that let the brain still be functional. At least if the brain is still working, all of us are still okay. You know, later on, we can now be repairing, you know, maybe kidney or, you know, intestines, all those ones, sort it out. But your brain contains 20% of all the energy that comes to the body. Okay, your memory is, I think what amazing keeps cropping up. I think it's one of my favorite points. It is estimated that the brain can store 2.5 million gigabytes of information. 2,500,000 gigabytes of information is what your brain is capable of storing, you know. While you think about this figure, I want you to think about everything that you need to get done. You know, when you're thinking today is Sunday, I have work tomorrow, this is what I need to sort out on Monday, Tuesday, you know, Wednesday, you know, that 2.5 million gigabytes of information. Yes, your brain is capable of getting that done. Okay, your brain is capable of getting that done. All right, so let's move on. Now, the other thing, you know, that I want to talk about, for those of us in the work and study groups, most of us have discussed this, you know, so I'm just putting it out there for, especially for the benefit of those of us that are not in a work and study group, you know, so that you just know that there are some foods, because they contain things that particularly help the brain, you know, to function better. If you are in a situation where, you know, there is a lot of, let me say, activity, or there's a lot of work that you're trying to get your brain to do, these are some foods that can be really helpful. And, you know, yeah, there are a lot of fancy things that are not easily available, but there are also a lot of things that are easily available. Fish, all kinds of fish, really, you know. Salmon is highlighted here because it's particularly good, but any kind of fish that contains omega-3 fatty acids, you know, is enough to help your brain functions. We have things like fruits, avocados. If you don't like avocados, please, this is a good time to change your mind. It helps you increase blood flow to the brain. Berries, tomatoes, oranges, apples, like I said, easily available. You know, when I put up this slide somewhere, someone said, we've not heard of broccoli before. It is available, even in Nigeria. Kale is also available. But okay, if you don't know those ones, at least you know cabbage, you know lettuce, you know carrots. These are leafy vegetables that are easily available that you should incorporate into your diet if you're trying to get, if you're putting your brain under extra work, let me put it that way. So technically speaking, everybody in work and study group, because you have a job that you're doing, you have a full-time job, and you have some study on the side. These are things that help us. Chocolates, yes. We will put another disclaimer that chocolates are good brain foods. Does not mean that you should go and overdo the chocolate and put on a lot of weight. If you put a lot of weight that you don't need, you know, you will still put your brain under excess stress, you know, so that's another disclaimer. But yes, chocolates are good. Dark chocolate in particular is actually very good for brain function. All sorts of nuts. Nuts usually contain fatty acids as well. So you see that anything that contains fatty acids is good for the brain. So you have almonds, in particular almonds and walnuts. And then of course we all know coffee and tea are stimulants, okay? Coffee and tea are brain stimulants. You know how it is for most people. When you take coffee, you know, it's like, okay, yes, my brain has woken up, you know, and all that, you know, but as with everything else that we're talking about, you know, you need to put it in moderation, understand the way your body functions. You know, for example, if somebody has something like reflux, or someone has like an ulcer, and you know that coffee makes these things worse, you should know that you should put things into moderation. If you absolutely don't need to, then you don't need to take, you know, coffee all the time. Or maybe you eat a bit and take tea, you know. Maybe you take just a little coffee and not drowning yourself in coffee and then ending up having other problems, you know, as time goes on. So that's coffee, tea. Then we have eggs, you know, enough said. We have calcium-rich foods, anything that rich in calcium, yogurt, cheese, milk, you know, bones. If you are like me, and when you finish eating, okay, yeah, when you finish eating chicken, you know, you must, unless you're outside, child, please don't do it outside. Remember, we talked about visibility. Don't have to bone outside. If you're at home, are with your people, you know, you want to chew the bone to the last drop. There's a lot of calcium there, you know. And finally, iron-rich food, you know. Remember that we've said that the brain takes about 20% of all the oxygen and all the energy that comes to the body, you know. So you are taking foods that are rich in iron. You are making sure that your body has enough to supply the body so that your brain is comfortable. None of these, there are two things that are kind of general things, you know, for your body to be healthy, but particularly for your brain. Exercise and drink water. These cannot be overstated. Even if you are doing every other thing, taking chocolates, coffee, you know, salmon, you're being careful with your diet and all that. If you exclude these two, then you're not ready. Water. I can't say it enough. You know, we say it over and over again. Drink water. Water does so many things. When we talk about the interesting facts about the brain, one of the things I didn't mention is that about 85% of the brain currently, as we speak now, is water. If you think about it, when you get dehydrated, one of the first ways you know you are dehydrated, especially for adults, you're having a bit of a headache, you know, you just feel, you know, kind of, well, those are the blood vessels in your brain telling you that, auntie, uncle, thank you, drink water, please. You know, we need some water. We're drying out. So water is extremely important. Simple, uncomplicated, yes, but very important. You are working, you're trying to get some tasks done. If you're not drinking enough water, you will start to have a headache, you will start to feel stressed, you know, and it's just, you know, you're feeling stressed sometimes, say, oh, I can't remember, let me drink some coffee, you know, but you could have just solved that problem by drinking water. So please make sure you have at least 3 liters of water in a day. Water also, especially for those, you know, if you're sitting to work, water even links to exercise, because if you drink a lot of water, you know that you will need to use the bathroom more often. And if you drink a lot of water, you're using the bathroom more often, that means you are standing up from your seat and you're exercising. You know, it's as simple as that. So water exercise, I mean, if you take a look at the slide, there's so many things. Increases neurochemicals, improves your memory, attention span, you know, all that are benefits of exercise directly to the brain. Okay, so water exercise. Now, before I step aside and allow Paul to come on, there's something that we want to address. And there's this thing about, the left brain and the right brain. You might or might have heard about it before, where it said that if you are left brain dominant, that means you're more logic, you're more strategic, and then the right brain dominant people, those who are more creative, artistic, airy, for want of a better word, light-hearted, the left brain dominant people are said to be, the more logical people, in quotes, serious people, want to think things through, one by one. So we would like to debunk that it is a myth. It is not true. Okay? Is it true that generally speaking, based on our personalities and our behavior, some people tend to be more logical, some people tend to be more, I need, five points agenda when they're explaining something. And some other people tend to be more, flowery, artistic, creative, kind of people. Oh yes, definitely it's true. That's not the myth we're debunking. The myth we're saying is not true. It's not true that if you are a more creative person or you like to draw, you like, things that are more artistic, it's not true that your right brain is more dominant. And if the reverse is the case, it is not true that your left brain is more dominant. It just means that that is your personality, that's the way you think, that's the kind of person you are. Now, you might be wondering that, oh yeah, so, why is it important to mention this? Why are you trying to debunk the myth if we are actually different kinds of people? It's important because people have said things like, oh, I'm creative, I'm right brain dominant. That's the way my brain works, is my right brain. My right brain is controlling me. So when a creative person has to think logically, because the person thinks that it is something structural, that's just the way my brain is. That's just the way my brain is. There's nothing I can do about it. But that's not true. So if you're thinking that way, you're not going to want to apply yourself, to say, okay, yes, I might be better, I might find it easier to be more creative. It's time to be logical, at least to an extent, to save my life in quote. So if you're a creative person, and you're running a business, for example, and you need to do, like me, that we're in love with accounting and figures, and you're just like, oh, no, that's the way I am. But sometimes you need to take ownership of that. My point is that you can learn it. So don't think that your brain cannot work that way. Some people say, no, me, I'm logical. I think things through. I can't be light, I can't be imaginative. But if you need to be imaginative, then you can learn to be imaginative because your brain does have the capacity to do so. Thank you. The next question would be, how do I get my brain to learn to do things I hasn't been doing before? And that is where Paul is going to come in and continue this conversation. So thank you very much. Paul, you have the floor.
Oh wow, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Engr. We appreciate it. I'm already looking at the 70% of oxygen that our brain is. That's interesting, really. Okay, so while we continue, so that we don't forget, can we all please drop our message on the chat box? Okay, like we said, the messages should happen on the chat box while this is happening, so that at some point we know how to incorporate them. So, Mr. Paul, are you good to go? Are you ready? Give me a thumbs up, please. Are you good to go, please? Can I get a thumbs up from you, sir? All right. Okay. So since there's no question, I think you can just shoot. Thank you. Paul, you can unmute and go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Good evening. No, so you are muted again, Paul. You are muted again. You want to unmute yourself again. You are muted. Yeah, I'm muted now, sir.
Okay, I'm good now. Yeah, I'm good now. Yeah,
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Mr. Paul.
I just want to go back one slide, back to the left brain, right brain argument. Good, beautiful. The reason this is important is because the thinking up to the 1940s or 1950s was that the left brain, right brain issue was that the right brain guys were creative, they could not be logical, they could not be analytical, and vice versa for the left brain guys. Why this is important is because this was just somebody's thought that became a theory, that became the dominant conversation. There was really no scientific basis for this. I'll give one popular example. Leonardo da Vinci, who painted the Sistine Chapel, gave the designs, the first designs for the aircraft. Da Vinci was a sculptor, a painter, a mathematician, a philosopher. So he had left and right brain capacity. So how then do we say people are left brain or right brain? Now, with the increase in MRFI and all of those that we can now see, we now know that everybody uses all parts of their brain. Another myth I want to dispel with is the argument that we're only using 10% of our brain. That is what you watch in the movies. It was never scientific fact. It's not scientific fact. Why is this important? Once we are able to take out this myth, we can now engage with the reality of the brain and be able to maximize it. So let's make progress. Let's make progress now. The first thing I want to say is, how does the brain work? Dr. Engr has given us the different parts of the brain and their functions. The brain cells are called neurons and glia. Now, I will try to not go into the technical. I'm not a doctor, so fine. What happens is a neuron is this. A signal is received by the dendrites in the neuron. It travels on the axon to the nucleus. That nucleus either interprets that signal as an output in the body, or it sends it back to another neuron. How does that happen? From the dendrite to dendrite, the brain cells are actually not connected. There's a space between them called synapses. It is within those synapses that the communication happens. There's a reason why I'm giving all of this. Everything we do, think, feel, like Dr. Engr said, when you hit your leg, the brain sends information, pain. There's a portion of the brain that deals with that. Why is this important? That's how you move. That's how you live. That's how you work. That's how you do everything that you do. All your life physically is controlled by the communications in your brain. The efficiency of that communication determines the efficiency of the results you produce, of the life you live, and more importantly, your internal self-regulation. One of the functions of the brain is to help you internally regulate. It tells your body there's heat here, let's sweat it out. It tells your bladder the water in the body is increasing, let's send it out. Everything is controlled by this central nervous system that is housed in the brain. Now, we want to go into networks. Between a neuron and a neuron, there are synapses. Now, there are over 100 million of these connections that are in your brain. Now, these neural pathways are a connection of neurons. So it's like a road in your brain. It's like basically like a road in your brain. Let's go to the next slide, please. It's basically like a road in your brain. When you eat a food for the first time, for the very first time, your brain takes that information and says, I haven't heard this before. It stores it somewhere in a neuron. You eat it the second time, so your brain searches the bank and says, okay, I have seen this before. It reinforces that part. By the 6, 7, 8 time you are eating it, the brain doesn't even have to look. It just goes there and picks the question and says, I know this thing. So the more you perform an action, the stronger the network, the stronger the neuron. Now, this is how your brain works. It is why, for example, this is the best example I like to give. If you enter a new location, if you enter a new location, on your way there, the journey is far. On your way back, it only looks short. It's the same distance. Why does it feel short? On your way there, your brain is actually creating information, gathering information. On your way back, because the information has been recently stored, it is easy to recall. So you are no longer using that much brain power. So it actually appears feels short, but the same distance. That's just your neural networks actually working. Now, the deal with neural networks is this. Every time you repeat an action, you densify the connection. It's like every time you pass a road, so you begin to know the road better. So as you tread that road, you densify connection. Now, when you stop passing that road, you also demystify the connection. So the connections are removed. So your brain is trying to be efficient. This information is not being used. Let's remove it. For example, it is why most of us could draw when we're much younger. But now we are finding it difficult to take a pen and draw. We used to draw all manner kinds of things. But because that pathway was not used, the brain says it's no longer efficient to keep it. So the brain removes that pathway. So the more you do stuff, the more you create the pathway. This brings us to the very important topic of neuroplasticity. Now, why is this important? In the old research, it was believed that the brain starts to form a conception, the cells start to divide, and when you get to age 4, 5, thereabouts, the brain is fully formed. All that now happens is just increase in your neural pathways. But research has shown, and it has been validated, that brain plasticity exists all along your life. It does not stop. Your brain is constantly rewiring itself, constantly creating itself, constantly changing. Actually, the physical structure of your brain is changing. As you get new information, as you make new decisions, as you carry out new actions, your brain is actually recreating itself. Why is this important? If we know that our brains are plastic, if we know that the brain is changing, it means that we can actually take hold of that process and use it for our own good. It means that if I am not creative and I need to be creative, I can find ways to teach my brain to become creative. I can actually manufacture that pathway in my brain. If I start to do creative things, initially the pathway will be small, but as I progress in doing it, I will create that pathway in my brain. Now, there are two types of plasticity. There's functional and there's structural. Functional plasticity is where the brain transfers functions from one area of the brain to another. This can happen when somebody has an injury. If you get injured, sometimes some part of the brain can no longer function. Your brain has the ability to transfer function to a different area. Also, this is also important for when you deal with procrastination, the battle within the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex. If you can train your brain to do a direct link between the prefrontal cortex and your limbic system, you would have overcome procrastination. What's procrastination basically? Procrastination is because the mammalian brain, so the back of your brain, the amygdala and the others, are used to pleasure and they want immediate gratification. But the part of your brain that controls your decisions, the prefrontal cortex, was formed much later than that other part. So the back part is more dominant. So you are more prone to seeking pleasure than trying to get things done. Actually make decisions and actions. What you need to do is to create a pathway that says pleasure can come from making decisions, pleasure can come from meeting deadlines. So it's to create that pathway, which when we get to it, you need to give yourself small rewards, you need to think about it. So you can actually change the way your brain works by making consumption. There's also structural plasticity, where the brain actually physically changes. When new neurons are formed, old neurons are removed. So the thing is that your brain is not static. Now, there are 4 ways that the brain changes. The first one is neurogenesis. Now, we used to assume that neurogenesis stops after age 5. But recent research shows that neurogenesis continues up till death. The brain is creating new neurons. If you do something that the brain cannot find a pathway for, it creates a new node and puts that in there and begins to branch out, which means that technically everybody has the capacity to do whatever they can do. Because if you can train yourself to really, you can create the pathways and make that your habit. The other way the brain changes is to form new synapses, start new connections. Now, this, let me say something here that's important here. One of the reasons we tell people to meditate, to be calm, to even involved in confession, is that your brain can respond to external stimuli or internal stimuli. So you can be calm, and your brain neurons can be talking to each other, and two neurons fire at each other, and they can create a new node internally. That's why sometimes you go to sleep with a problem, you wake up, you suddenly find the answer. While you were asleep, your neurons were talking to each other, and they just created a pathway, and suddenly you see the answer. The third one is the strengthening of synapses. As you use those connections, as you travel that road, the synapses get stronger. The fourth one is when you stop using those synapses, they break and they disintegrate. So it's why some of the things you could do before as a child, you can no longer do because you do not reinforce those synapses. As a child, I used to be able to draw very well. I stopped drawing. I got into engineering. I had to relearn drawing. And amazingly, I relearned how to draw. It took a while, it was some effort, but I relearned it, which means that it was just there. I didn't use it and it went off. It's critical that we understand this because this is the crux of what we are sharing today. That every human being has the power to reconfigure their brain. Now, let me go a step further. I was going to say this. If we are children of God, God speaks from his spirit to our spirits. From our mind, we have to not transfer that information to our body. If the brain is not well developed, it cannot receive, we cannot perform those things. That's why Paul said, I know what to do. There's a law at work in me that is preventing me from doing. Now, that restriction has been removed as Christians. It means that we can actually take the divine thoughts and perform them in this physical body. Now, if we don't align our brain, if we don't recreate our brain, we will not be able to perform as we are expected. This is what Paul meant when we are putting down strongholds. A stronghold is simply a well-traveled pathway. I'll say it again. A stronghold is simply a well-traveled pathway. You've done something several times. It has moved from the conscious to subconscious. It's now in your brain. Your brain is unconsciously doing it. This is what addiction is. People are now in a place where there are so many neurogenesis and synapses. The pathways are so strong that your volitional mind cannot even control those pathways. Now, breaking those strongholds, we try to demystify those pathways and deconstruct them. That's exactly what happens in the brain. Now, because we're in work and study, I want to go to something I call FAST. Jim Quick, and some of you have heard of Jim Quick. Jim Quick has this rule for how to learn things fast. He said it's FAST, fast. The first thing is to forget. You must forget what you think you know. And I want to say this here. Everything I'm sharing today, we're sharing today about the brain, is information as of today. By next week, I will, for example, let me talk about coffee. I used to drink coffee a lot. Then I started reading brain science. Okay, I stopped drinking coffee. Then I read two separate research, one in the Harvard, one in Harvard Health, and one in Science, the journal. And they proved that drinking coffee was great for you. So I went back to drinking coffee. Then later, I read another research in Nature, countering this research in Science. So the information is constantly changing. But where we are now in terms of coffee, for those of us who drink coffee, is that coffee is good for you, but in moderation. That's where we are. It's good for your moderation. So the information is constantly changing. So the first thing you must do when you want to learn anything new, forget what you already know. Leave your previous pathways behind. Try and create new pathways here. About forgetting, something that's important, your brain cannot multitask. If we say every action that we perform is simply neurons firing, multiple neurons can be firing in multiple directions. What some people have done is that they have denser pathways. So some tasks can be carried out faster, more efficiently, while you're doing other things. Actually, when you are multitasking, your brain is jumping from one place to the other. That's what happens. So what we need to do is focus on what you are doing. Focus on what you are doing. Yes, I want to drive and listen to an ebook. You will have to read it 40 times to hear it. If you sit down in your room listen to an ebook and you drive to an ebook, there's a difference. Now, I'm not saying don't. I do it. While I know I have to listen to that ebook 5 times to get it because I'm not fully concentrated. Forget your limitations. In fact, there are no limitations. Your brain can create itself. Another thing, next thing, fast. Forget active. This is so important. Most of us in school sat down, were taught, went home, or we took the book, read it. You are not involved in the learning process. If you are not involved in the learning process, you will never maximize your learning. What it means is that the pathways will be weak. The connections will be weak because you have to connect your prefrontal cortex and your brainstem, your amygdala, and your limbic system. Really, you have to create emotions to it. The reasons why you hear some songs today and they still bring some emotions. Take heartbreak for example. You hear a song, it reminds you of that heartbreak because that memory was stored with an emotion deeply. You haven't thought about it in 5 years, but you hear that song, it comes again. Because that pathway, even if it is deep in the brain, it was stored effectively. You must be active when you are learning. One of the ways to do this is to get involved. Write, talk, ask questions. Ask questions. Take good notes. Ask questions. Ask questions. Learning is not a spectator sport. The next thing, fast, forget active state. This is important. The state in which you learn something determines how deep the pathway is. There is that Engr always says, and I like, information plus emotion is equal to long-term memory. I like it when you say information plus emotion equals to memory. The emotion you feel when you read that thing, the sound, the thought, the state in which you were at determines how well you will assimilate or not assimilate the information. So you must try to connect everything you are learning to an emotion. This is going to make me make $1 million. My excitement to make you to learn it well. This, I'm going to teach this. So I'm going to help myself now. When you do that, when you create the state in which you learn, you can adjust your state. You can always change the state in which you are. The truth is that happiness is a choice. Happiness is not a function of what happens. It's a choice. Because the truth, because if happiness is not a choice, how come we watch comedies and then we laugh? We watch tragedies and then we cry. It is the stimulus we are receiving and our reaction to it. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our ability to choose our response. You have seen people who broke their legs. You went to greet them and they were all happy. So they say, well, don't worry, the leg will go again. You have seen those who broke their leg and they're like, the world has ended. So it's not a matter of what happens to you. It's how you happen to what happens. So you need to create the state. The next thing is teach. This is very important. I heard this for the first time from Stephen Covey. He said, if you want to learn something well, teach it the next day. If you put yourself in the role of a teacher, you will pay more attention. I'm going to teach this thing. Your brain enters into a different mode. Your retention is better. For those of us who have kids, tell your kids when they come home from school or a weekend, if you can't read every day, teach me what they taught you. So they put a board, they should teach you. They will not fail one class. They will not fail one. I'm telling you, they will not fail one class. If they know they will teach it to you when they get home, they will learn it. It's just how the brain works. If the brain knows I might not need this information, it will create weaker pathways. If the brain knows I need this information, it will create stronger pathways. It's just how the human brain works. That is the beauty of neuroplasticity. You can adjust your brain. You can adjust your mind. You can adjust your life. You can transform how you are. You can do so much with the brain. You can sit in your house and recreate your brain. Now, I need to add this before I move to the next thing I want to say. One of the powers of confession is this. When your brain receives information, whether it is imaginative or not, your brain does not really know. So when you are speaking something, your brain starts creating the pathway. As you start speaking it, your brain starts creating. For those of us who have used the question, you confess to a point, you start seeing pictures. Those pictures you are seeing is a function of the fact that your brain has taken the words you have spoken, synapses have strengthened, pathways have been created, and your brain is creating the images. So you must keep speaking to yourself. And the truth is this, self-talk is the most powerful talk you can ever say. Why? When anybody speaks to you, as I'm speaking to you now, you are hearing it once. You are hearing with your outer ear. When you speak to yourself, I'm hearing myself twice. In fact, the third time really, because I am hearing the thoughts before they become words. I am hearing the words from my outer ear. I am hearing the words from my inner ear. It's why when you record yourself, you sound different because you are not hearing it with your outer ear. So there are 3 levels where you really hear, which is why self-talk is very important. You are conditioning your brain. If you keep speaking a certain way, your brain will create a pathway. Let me put a scripture here. Hebrews 11 says that if they were mindful of the city where they came from, they would have found a way to go back. That word opportunity in that scripture is the word kairos. They would have, if they had their minds full of where they were coming from, they would have kairos made this specific opportunity available to go back. But they look for a city who was God. So which means that if we can consciously put ourselves in a state where we are seeing where we are going to, we will create opportunities to get there. This is what neuroplasticity which actually means. You can sit down, chart a course, and by the power of your brain, create the ability to go there. I want to just run through a few things in the last slide, then we can discuss the questions. A few ways to maximize to stimulate your brain. The first thing, next slide please. The first thing is mindfulness. Now, I have to be careful here. There's a lot of stuff online. Calmness app, meditative apps. We are Christians. The best way I meditate is this. I take a scripture and I keep saying it in my mind. I hold that scripture in my mind. I have a thought. I keep looking at that thought. The just shall live by faith. The just shall live by faith. I hold it in my thoughts. What my brain is wondering, I use that thought to drag myself back. You cannot listen and be doing nothing. You must, but what mindfulness does, it allows your brain to involve itself in neurogenesis. Number 2 is memory and imagination. You can reinforce a pathway by going back to what has happened. You can go and relive it in your mind. You will reinforce that pathway. I ate Oreos. It tasted like this. You can create it and suddenly you start craving Oreos. The next thing is the other part is that you can also create pathways by imagination. I see myself owning this, that, and that. You create it, you create that memory. Your brain starts looking for how to make it happen. The next thing is whole brain thinking. We want to talk about this. Whole brain thinking. You are not left or right. You are whole brain. You are whole brain. Think like you are whole brain. I can be creative. I can be logical. I can be analytical. I can be funny. I can be. You can't capacity to do all of that. Your brain is communicating left to right. Your brain is communicating right to left. There is no particular you. Another hack is this. If you are left-handed like me, try and write with your right hand or pick this with your right hand. You are creating newer pathways in your brain. If you are right-handed, try and use your non-dominant hand. You are teaching your brain to form pathways that don't exist. Another thing, exercise. Exercise helps the brain to flush out dead cells, to create new cells, and to generally increase the flow of oxygen to your brain. Reading. Read any and every kind of subject. I am not a doctor. I got involved in the brain because one reason why I got involved in the brain was I found that I was creative and logical. I could do graphic design, yet I was studying engineering. It just didn't batch. I'm like, let's go and start I was starting here. Read. There's a book I'm reading now on Erika Badu, the musician. On Erika Badu, the musician. Why? I just want to learn. There's another book I have on crossing, how they cross the Atlantic. Read outside your field. Read everything. You would have enough data to create new memories. There are places you have not visited, but you have read so much about the place, you know it. Read. There's so much to learn. Read about the brain. Read about the body. Read about your eyes, your optical nerve. How many nerve endings happen there? Read about the fact that in your eyes, nobody sees exactly how things appear. We see not with our eyes, but our brain. All your eyes does is receive light and transfer to your brain. Your brain creates the image based on what it knows before. That's why somebody is similar. Sleep. This one, me, I'm guilty. Sleep. When you sleep, your brain can recreate itself. When you sleep, your brain can form new connections. Fasting. What fasting does is transfer energy that the body would have used for digestion upstairs. When you fast, you slow down metabolism. The brain is not working as hard as it should work. So it has more time to do other things, like create new neurons, like repair itself, like neurogenesis, like destroy working synapses. Learn a new skill or a new language. Play the guitar, play the trombone. You will be creating neural pathways. If you learn a new language, you would have increased your brain's memory system by at least 10 or 20%. That's why when you learn the first language, second language is hard, the third one is easier. People have 3, 4, 5 languages. It's easier because as they learn, they get better. Last thing here, explore new places. It doesn't have to be fast. There are things on your street you have not even seen. You will see a flower that is different. You will see a butterfly that is different. Your brain will check, because at the end of the day, really, the quality of your mind, of your brain rather, is a function of the information that it gets. So the hack here is to consciously put in the information. So this.
Hello, Paul, you're muted. Hello, Paul, can you hear me? You've gone on mute, yeah. Thank you. You're muted. Now we can't hear you.
The picture on my device. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah.
So the hack here is to consciously use information, consciously create the information. Now, there's something I want to add as I close. If we are consciously creating new information, we must be consciously removing information. I came home one day, saw my wife watching I don't know what the name was. It was a soap opera. I watched a few minutes. I said, babe, you shouldn't be watching this. I said, it's not good for your health. I said, your brain will start thinking like this. She removed it. But this is that if all you watch is divorce cases because it makes you interesting, your brain starts creating divorce pathways. If all you watch is people lying, people cheating, and this is what sells really, and that's why social media is critical that we curate our use of social media. I choose who to follow. I choose when to even be on social media. The only thing I feel right now is with Twitter, and I have a deal with you, but God will help me. But you've got to be conscious about what goes into your brain. Once you are conscious about what you are sending in, you can control the output you get. Like they say, garbage in, garbage out. The deal is that once we are able to know what goes in, we can then know what goes out. Now, there's a whole lot about the brain we can say, but I think we want towards practical. Let's not start giving what will not be beneficial. This is enough. We can have questions, and maybe we can interact more about the brain. Thank you very much.
Wow. Okay, so it was feeling like it is just continue. I mean, but going to our time, thank you so much. This is insightful. I could hear the interaction. I mean, I don't know why questions are not coming, but everybody's just, showing their excitement, expressing their excitement on the chat box. But then, I don't know if anybody has any questions. Okay, so since nobody has any questions, with a show of hands, just indicate if you have any questions. Our time is fast spent. We agreed for 1 hour, but let's see. If you have any questions, can you just raise your hand so that we give you the floor to ask the question? Paul and Engr are here to doubt any of your concerns. Okay, so someone is already saying something. Said, what does inner mind mean, please? Ebunomo is saying, what does inner mind mean, Paul? That's you.
I'm laughing because I personally didn't want to talk about that. There's a controversy in the neuroscience world about whether the mind is inside the brain or outside of the brain. Now, we know that man is spirit, soul, and body. We know that from scripture. Now, most people in science do not agree or accept that. So they try to engage the world from entirely the physical realm. But even psychoanalysis and psychology are even agree. There is a subconscious mind. The question is, where is the mind? That's the question they're asking. Some say the mind is a separate interface and is not the physical mind. Some people say that what we call the brain, actually the address of your mind, that those connections of the synapses is what forms your mind, your so-called consciousness and thoughts. Now, so to your question, you speak of inner mind. What do you mean by inner mind? Outside and inner, what we have is conscious and subconscious mind. Now, in your brain, there are the conscious decisions you make. You prefer prefrontal cortex. Yeah. Then, if you go to your to the brainstem, medulla and the others, the pumps, those ones control things like breathing. You really don't consciously try to breathe. Now you are breathing, you don't even know you are breathing. Your heart is beating. Something is in charge of all of those things. Those are subconscious. Now, the hack about this is really, well, if I get what you're trying to go to, you can be so efficient with some tasks that they almost look like they are subconscious. Okay, my wife told me saw something, I think 2 days ago. She said, I woke up and I just woke up and started praying in tongues. I said, I can't remember. I just couldn't remember. But it's that I have done that over the years for a long time. Whenever I wake up, the first thing I do is pray in tongues. So that even when I woke up unconsciously, my brain said, this is what you do, pray in tongues. And I just was looking at pretty in tongues and I slept off. Which means that I was actually doing something. I woke up. I really didn't get up from the bed. I just woke up, prayed in tongues, and stepped back. Now, even if God was prompting your spirit to communicate that to your soul, to your body, if your body has not been trained, what it will be that you will have the intention, you will have the thought in your mind, you can't carry it out in your body because your body has not been trained.
I like when you said you will have the intention and then you corrected yourself. Because if you have the intention, it means that you can do it. But if you don't have the intention, it means you are yet to be able to do it expressively physically. Am I correct?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so for me, I have a question. I don't know. So I need to be clear on this. You said when you were talking about something, you said your brain when you say went off, I think you were saying something and then you say that your brain goes off when you are trying to do something. Okay, like when you say you are an artist, you draw, okay, but then you stop drawing.
Yes.
And then because of engineering, you started drawing again. So you have to protest by saying that when you are doing something and then you stop it, it goes off. So what I want to be clear about, when you say it goes off, is that you quietly it, or it goes off entirely and you need to pick it up again, or it is somewhere hidden, but it has been suppressed. Then when you want to do it again, you bring it back to life. I want to be clear on that. Thank you.
Now, let me explain how memory works.
Okay.
Memory is not like your brain. It's not like a computer. Memory is not that you see somebody's face and then your brain snaps that face and goes to put it in one file inside your brain. That's not how it works. The way it works is this. You see a face, actually, light muscle goes to your eyes transfer to your brain. Your brain tries to create that image of what you're seeing. That image is stored in several million of neurons in several locations. When you require that information, your brain goes back to those things and tries to recollect them and recreate and gather them together. What happens is this. If you don't have effective pathway, it becomes difficult to recollect. If the memory was not stored in a deep emotional state, it is not deeply formed. Difficult to create. That's how memory happens. So what happens most times is because you are traveling that pathway every time, your brain is accessing the area quickly. It is getting denser and deeper. Or conversely, if you are not traveling that pathway, it keeps diminishing and diminishing and diminishing. You stop going that pathway, it diminishes. But the truth is that the way the human brain is, if you one day start looking for that thing, you will create pathways to the last remaining node. As long as there is no damage, which is why brain damage is, although the brain can be step on it, why brain damage is a bad thing. if the brain cannot move function, if it cannot move the information away, like a driver has suddenly gone bad, that sector cannot be read. So, but it is there at a certain level. If you start creating pathways, you get to it. Now, the beauty, but the truth is that if you no longer use it, you no longer have access to it. With time, to access it becomes very difficult. It's weak. It's like a thing like it's fainting. If you don't use it for a while, it totally goes. That means totally go, because the brain tries to be efficient. Why should I store a memory you will not use? Why have this node that you're not going to apply? Let's use it to do what you are doing. Let's maximize the space we have. We have a lifetime of 20 years. So your brain is actually trying to be more efficient. That's why you want.
Okay. So someone is saying, can you recommend a book for them as regards the inner mind you talked about? That they need more information. If you can recommend any book for them.
I would like to follow up that person. You can chat me up privately. You can get my details somehow, because I want to be clear what you mean inner mind. Yes, but what I want to say, there's this lady, Caroline Leaf. Caroline Leaf is a born-again child of God. I think she's from South Africa. She's based in the US, I think. US or UK, I'm not too sure. I think you in the US. Yeah. Caroline Leaf has written several good books. Her first great book, Who Switched Off Your Brain? She had another book called Switch On Your Brain. Caroline Leaf is recommended. It's an interesting book. I think it's Daniel George. How the brain heals itself or something like that. Let me try and find it. Yeah, the brain that studies itself. It tells you how people are able to overcome injuries and overcome situations by just changing how their brain functions. Wow. The brain that changes itself. Caroline Leaf's books are really good. She has written a book on brain health and brain food, how healthy eat your brain smart. So, but I also advise read. There's a guy who wrote about Leaf and said Leaf doesn't know what she's talking about. I have his book. I read it. So you read all sides of the argument, then you look at the data, and then you make your own deduction, and the Holy Ghost will lead you, because sometimes there are even conflicting information. That's why I really don't want to recommend it. There are several books I can still read. And I say you may just find the guy has been discredited 2 years later. But so you need to also read. That's why you must read wide, really. You must read several things, because one of the things what reading does for you is this: when you're reading something new, something you've read before, says, this doesn't sound right. You go back and check. You now start finding out, oh, this looks like this doesn't look like this. There's a book I'm rereading now. I'm reading Jeff Colvin, Talent is Overrated. I'm not listening to the ebook. I'm not reading. I'm just listening to the audiobook. I agree with him on several things about the fact that talent is not in it and all of that, but he overstretches the argument and some things are not balanced. So you must be able to look at all of these things about books. You must read many of them. I read people who conflict, so you can tell where the truth is in the middle. Everybody's trying to tell you.
Wow. Okay. This is good. I like the fact when you said stronghold is a well-traveled pathway. I will not forget that. That won't give me problem. Any other question from anybody? Wow. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so very much. Really, this was insightful. It was worth the attention. In fairness. Any other question? Okay. Sometimes do something. Okay, Prosper, that's me. Prosper, you might want to unmute and speak, please. Thank you.
Okay, right. Thank you, Paul, so much for this presentation. I just have an observation. I had an experience one time, it should be about 2 years ago, where one of my colleagues had an accident and she had something like brain damage. I was there, and then we escorted her to the hospital. So the doctor asked her I noticed something that led to her recovery. They asked her to keep on repeating the last things she could remember in order to restore the neural pathways because she was almost losing her mind. So when you were speaking about creating neural pathways and making confession, I remembered what happened, and it has assured me to go back into doing the right thing, which is reading wide, making confession, and then trying to learn something new to create neural pathways. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And that doctor was really smart.
So I can easily say that, yes, I can easily say that
hacking the brain to get it back on.
Yeah, it was hacking the brain, right? So I can easily say that my ability to validate my neural pathways, my decision to enforce the information I give to it. Am I correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyway, okay, Rona, you are on, please. Unmute and contribute or ask a question. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Rola.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the presentation. Very informative. Please, my question is, there are times where some things happen and you feel that this event has happened somewhere before. Sometimes it might be in the dream or I really don't know, but there are times you just feel when something happens, just feel like, I've seen this event happen somewhere before. Does this have anything to do with the brain?
You want to attempt that? Okay. No, deja vu has not been officially confirmed in the research papers. And the simple reason is this: most of science is in the physical world. Most of science, I said deja vu has not been confirmed in the research. The level of deja vu has been before, because most of science stays in the physical world. But the truth is that sometimes your brain has premonition. Your mind has premonition, not your brain. Your mind has premonition. The human being is God's masterpiece. He's the apex of creation. That's just the truth. It's not because the truth is that what happened in Genesis chapter 3, when sin came into this world, was a disastrous blow. When it says that the whole creation groaning, that groan is not even of man only. Let's not go too deep into some of this. Somebody does a good job with all of this. There are things that we no longer see. Let me share an experience with you. My dad died 2007, August. In July, I was in Lagos on a project. We were working close to a morgue in a hospital. And I was demolishing a building close to the morgue. I was seeing dead bodies every day. So I knew what to do, how they handle dead bodies and all of that. Then the next month I traveled and then my father died. I knew exactly what to do. Can you connect both? Not really. My father was shot. He didn't die after court. So it's not that something was planned, but is there a link between what happened and that? There may not be, there may be. It could just be preparation for what's coming, how to handle this and how to do that. The point I'm making is that a lot of what we see around us, which is why we really need to get into communion with God. There is more to life than just the physical brain. We're talking about the brain now, but the brain is just the conduit from the spiritual via the soul to the physical. So what I would say is this: if you are a Christian, God is trying to get information to you. Sometimes that information comes somewhere, it doesn't get to output. When the thing now happens, you suddenly feel like, I was sensing this thing because the information was coming, you didn't get it. That's why you must work on your brain. In fact, you must be in this right physical state. There are times when, okay, now I don't longer eat those kind of food. When you eat some kind of food, to wake up and pray at night, it's not even a battle. You don't even wake up. You just finally wake up and you find that it's the morning alarm that woke you up. Then I want to say this here. I'm going to say it. Never snooze your alarm. If you snooze your alarm, it becomes ineffective. Your brain creates a pathway. When the alarm rings, don't wake up. Or once you are even if I don't want to stand up, I pick up the phone or the device or the alarm clock. I look at it. I stand up. I walk around 2 minutes. Tell my brain, you are supposed to follow when the alarm goes off, and I go back to bed. Once you're in the habit of snoozing your alarms, they become ineffective. These are the things you train yourself with. That's how you train. All right, your alarms are becoming ineffective. And another thing I noticed, and this has happened for several people now. If you have trained your brain well, if you set an alarm for a certain time, you will wake up 5 minutes to that time or 3 minutes to that time. You look at the alarm, you will hold the phone and the alarm will ring. I don't know if anybody here has had that experience. You say, I want to wake up at this time. You already wake up 2 minutes to the time. And you wait for the alarm, the alarm rings.
I have had it. I think that was 2 years ago. I was attacked. I lost my phone and my laptop at that time. But usually I wake up at 5. So I had no phone at that time, and my phone was my alarm. But apparently that week I was using no phone, but I woke up 5 minutes to that time for that week. So I had.
That's your body. That's your brain working.
Wow, thank you so much. Wow. Do we have any other question? Okay, someone is raising up their hand. Who's that question? Larry, can we hear you? Please unmute and speak, please. Want to ask a question? Want to make a contribution?
Hello, everybody. Good evening.
All right. Good evening, Larry.
My question is, for somebody who's working in a high pressure area and you discover you are coordinating a lot of activities almost at the same time, and you discover that you forget few tasks, few of your activities, you forget them gradually. What are the active steps you can do to ensure that you don't forget some of your tasks? Do you understand my question?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I usually say that your brain stores information, but your brain is not for storing information.
Your brain is not.
I say that your brain stores information, but your brain is not for storing reminders.
Oh, great.
There are apps for that. There are notepads for that. Listen. When you write something down, you remember it twice. Because the first time you got the information, your brain takes it. When you write it down, your brain takes it the second time. So just the simple act of writing it down, you are causing the pathways to be deeper and the synapses to be stronger. Stop trying to remember things. Get an app, get a notepad, write it down. It's not because writing it down will help you remember more. Also, there is that, okay, we didn't get to this. When you tick off something on your to-do list, you are creating a pathway from your prefrontal cortex to your limbic system, the emotional part of your brain that they reach. So you are telling your brain that when we get things done, it's also good. Dopamine and serotonin can be released. So you are training your brain to say, making decisions, doing things is also a good thing. When you tick off done, you are sending them a link from your prefrontal cortex. This is what helps against procrastination. Teaching your brain that getting this thing done is special. You really difficult thing. What your interest says, it far from. You are making it forget about things. I hope I helped you with that. Write it down, sir. There are many systems. There's GTD, David Allen. There's what is another one? There are several management systems for organizing data, organizing information. There's several of them. I try to remember it, but I use GTD a lot. That's why I remember this thing. But you can create your own system. There are several systems for remembering stuff. Really, you just follow the system and then you create a system of retrieval. Like I say, do, delete, or delegate. Once you get an information, if something I can do in 2 minutes, I do it now. If something I need to delegate, I delegate it now. Something I need to delete, I delete it. Something I need to put maybe later, I set a date and time to do later. So do now, delete is not important, delegate, or do later. Now later is a date. like I usually say jokingly, I'll do it later. It's not the time on the calendar.
Oh,
There's no day called later on the calendar.
oh,
It's why it's easy to watch Netflix for 4 hours and not do the things we need to do. We train our brain to say, I'll do it later. And then the brain says that I'll do it later. Someday, maybe. I hope I helped you. Write it down. Write it down. Don't you deepen your memory by writing. And it's why everybody should try and journal. Even if it's 2 sentences a day, try and journal. Many apps. You don't even have to use an app. You can use your notes app. That's right. My day was this. My day was that. When done, you dump your day. You reflect. You go through things, and then you actually make yourself
your memory by writing. Thank you so much for. So any other contribution? I mean, we're at the touchdown mode. So let's hear our passengers. Can all the passengers please? I mean, let's just write and can we just I mean, it's been an interesting auto cruise. So let's communicate with our pilots. I mean, the pilots have really done a good job from takeoff point, auto cruise, and here we are. I mean, he's already telling us that we are at the destination, so we're about touching down. Who else? Any other contribution, any other question? Wow, I would say that we are disloaded, but really, I mean, it was a comprehensive one. I mean, I don't even I look for the right word to call this. I don't want to call this using your brain part. It's more than that. The brain is just everything. Okay, I don't know if Governor Madanyika has anything to say.
Thank you very much, Ugochukwu, for the anchoring the session. I really want to thank Dr. Sanya and Paul for this insightful session. I mean, we knew that the brain is powerful, but we never thought that, I mean, it's this powerful. Thank you so much for your time on the presentation. Really, this was, I would say this is one of my best sessions so far this semester. I enjoyed every bit of it. It was very enlightening. Thank you so much.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Dr. Ndeka, I don't know if you have any passing words for. I mean, a lot of great presentation. Wow, thank you, Mr. Paul and Dr. Ndeka. I'm reading now for you. Wow, thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. Well done. I mean, it's a lot. We're just saying, should I take it up?
She's muted.
Myself?
Dr. Ndeka is muted.
Oh, okay. Engr, do you have any parting words for us? I want to unmute and let's hear you. Okay, Mr. Paul, any parting words from you?
Just want to say to our governor, this was, you know, how did this happen? We're having a harmless conversation on the group, and then they were like, masterclass. So just be careful what you wish for. You could get put on the spot, but it's my final words are these. I want to go with what OC shared at the last masterclass we had. He said, what are we doing with the things we've had? One of my favorite scriptures is John chapter 13 and verse 17. In the NIV, it says, now that you know these things, blessed are ye do them. So it's not know them. I ask myself, when I read a book or watch a documentary, I say, okay, what am I doing next with this innovation? Because if I don't do anything about it, it gets caused in one part of my brain, I can't receive it.
Wow.
So what will you do tomorrow? What will you do this night? That's how change begins. One step at a time, Thank you. Dr. Engr wants to speak.
She's allowed to unmute. I don't know if you can try now. Engr, you want to try now? Can you unmute yourself now, please?
She still can't unmute. She can't unmute.
Oh.
Okay, hi. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay,
yes,
I'm muted.
You can hear you, yes.
Oh yeah, thanks. I think I was just going to say what Paul said, about it is, knowing it and having all this information is one thing. But I guess the burden of proof is now on every single one of us, to get it done and do better with the blessing that we have received. He's just telling everybody that there's way more than you might have thought that you can do, So go ahead and do. That's all. And thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for turning up. I mean, this was an interesting one. I mean, for me, my last parting word would be that, and I heard it, that we should try and connect everything we learn to our emotions. That, for me, I mean, now I understand why some things happen to me, Maybe I've been doing that unconsciously, so I should be intentional about it right now. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much, guys, for coming on board. It's been a nice one. I just
thank you.
It's just a great and fantastic week. Please, you can unmute and appreciate our participators, and then our governors too for this privilege. You can unmute and appreciate them as we leave. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. No.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.